Hey, everybody, welcome back to DeBord Room. It is Tuesday night. We're joined once again by Ryan Vigil, and as usual, Alex is here as well. How you guys doing?
Good to be back.
Can't complain, man. Ready for another good week.
I feel like the sporting news kind of holds off until Tuesday because up till Sunday, I was like, what the hell are we going to talk about outside of J.J. Watt? Because that happened yesterday. Yeah, so up to yesterday, I was like, what the hell are we going to talk about? But it's been a very eventful day news-wise in the NFL once again. So I do want to start with a trend we're seeing, and I'm curious what you guys think about it because we see it more and more in sports, and I have a feeling that it's going to just continue to get worse as time goes on. So we've talked ad nauseum about Deshaun Watson demanding a trade. Now you got Russell Wilson, who's apparently angry at Seattle because they're not listening to him and he's sick of getting hit, rightfully so. So, Ryan, we'll start with you. Is there a growing issue with players demanding to be traded in sports? Is it going to get to the point where it's kind of out of control?
You know, I don't know that this is a trend that has just started. I think this has been a thing for a long time. It's become more prevalent with the LeBron James of the world when the biggest athlete in a certain sport is starting to do this. It starts to put a big spotlight on it. But when you look at the NFL, you can go back to Eric Dickerson, Randy Moss, Joe Montana, Jerome Bettis, John Elway before he got drafted. These are all really big names, some of the greats of all time that actually were in the same field. It just wasn't as it's. I think we just live in a different world now where we have if somebody speaks, it's heard and it's heard by millions. When you go back to John Elway was not drafted by the Denver Broncos. A lot of people don't know that. He was actually traded in his draft. But we don't know that because we didn't have the same kind of broadcast capability that we did back then. He was not happy. He was going to go to the Baltimore Colts at the time, and people just didn't, like it wasn't a thing. Then now we know him as a Denver Bronco, and we think he's been there his whole career. I think when it comes to the NFL, the first real big one of our age group, of the generation that we can remember, would probably be Eli Manning. I think that was broadcasted on a real big stage. Archie said, "You'll never play for the San Diego Chargers." As a San Diego Charger fan, I hated the guy. I hated the idea that a player can essentially make the decision that I'm not going to go play for a team. But to kind of bring it all together, I'm for it. I'm 100% okay with it. I think that players having the ability to make the call to say, hey, I'm not happy here, and it's for this, this, and this. Now, there's different tiers of this. When you look at someone like a Russell Wilson, this guy's taken his team to the Super Bowl. This is a guy who is the head of Seattle sports. This isn't just a player that's not happy. This is your biggest player. And if he's telling you he's not happy, then you got to make him happy. Now head over to Houston. It's a little bit of a different situation. You have more of a young up and coming kind of guy in Deshaun Watson, who's coming off his best year. But Deshaun Watson, if he wants to leave and he's ready to be out, I get it. If I was him, I'd want to be out too. Literally, there was a viral video of J.J. Watt saying, "Sorry, we ruined your season and pretty much your career." And it's a valid thing, man. A lot of these guys are like, hey, I don't want to be Barry Sanders. I don't want to be Andrew Luck and take hits after hits after hits and have to end my luxurious career because I can't get through the pain. It's different in all sports. When it comes to the NFL, I think that there's a lot of big names that have done it, and I'm personally okay with it. And another, just to kind of validate it, is you have the people like a big story that just came up is Kyle Van Noy. This guy just signed he's 1 year into a 4-year, $51 million deal and gone, cut. So, the NFL, when they have the opportunity just to say, hey, we're not going to pay you anymore, and whatever we gave you guaranteed, take it, we'll put it in the dead cap spot, and we'll kind of run with it. But they have the ability to not give players money like they do the MLB. So me personally, I'm okay with players making their own calls.
All right, Alex.
Yeah, listen, I don't know how I really feel about this, right? Because Deshaun Watson is a different story than Russell Wilson to me. Deshaun Watson just signed a mega deal where he knew what he had in that team. He had seen bad deal after bad draft pick, after terrible, trades, trading first round picks for has-been guys. So he knew what he was getting into when he signed that big deal. So I don't feel bad for him 1 ounce. He's a jackass, in my opinion. His management should have told him to take a 1-year deal and just been done with it. And then, let him, or say, don't take a deal at all and let him franchise me and make me, $35 million or whatever it would have been on the franchise tag. And then I understand you're playing Russian roulette, especially with that offensive line. He could have got hurt at any time. But here we are, fast forward a year later after signing a huge deal. And now you're like, oh, I want out. Poor me, feel bad for me. I signed this terrible deal and this organization is crap. But it's been crap his entire time he's been there. So I don't feel bad for him. Now, Russell Wilson's in a totally different situation. When Russell Wilson was drafted, he had Max Unger, who was one of the best centers in the league at the time. He had a really good offensive line. He had the Legion of Boom to where, hey, look, you keep hitting me. Guess what? My defense is going to get to your quarterback too. And it's kind of a trade-off, right? So his offensive line was good. It's like, best thing I equate it to is like me and Ryan play softball. You keep hitting at me. Guess what? Ryan's next at bat, he's going to hit your pitcher. He's going to hit it at him. It's just the way it goes, right? So it's protection. There's some fear factor there, right? There's some retaliation. But now they've dismantled the team. They haven't put a lot of talent around him on the offensive side. Their defense has slipped, right? And when's the last time they drafted an offensive lineman that has worked out in Seattle? I dare you to name me one. They don't, right? They traded Max Unger for Jimmy Graham and a bag of magic beans. It was the first DeAndre Hopkins deal that we didn't really talk about, right? Because Max Unger is a center, and everybody thinks that these flashy guys are the way the NFL has won. But we know as true NFL aficionados, it's won in the trenches on the offensive line and defensive line. That's how you win Super Bowls. If that wasn't proven by what Tampa Bay dismantling Kansas City was, then I don't know what, right? So I have a different opinion on each of them. Now, listen, at the end of the day, you're young. You're, at the pinnacle of the sport, right? You're a great athlete. Your body is your paycheck. So if you want out, who am I to tell you no? And the fact that salaries are not 100% now, salaries are 100% guaranteed. Miss me with the leave-in and wanting to request trades and all that stuff. But the fact that they're not guaranteed, and we just saw, like Ryan brought up with Kyle Vanoy, Kyle Rudolph, who just got cut, right? These guys only got their guaranteed money. So Kyle Vanoy probably got 15 or 20 million guaranteed out of that 51, right? So he thought he had 51 million for the next 4 years. He think that's life-changing money. Not that 15 to 20 isn't, but it's different, right? Now he's got to go restructure, renegotiate a contract. And if he goes back to New England, he sure as hell ain't going to get that kind of sweetheart deal. So you got to really look at, it. I hate to say this, but it's like the slave owner, slave mentality. And I hate to bring that up because it's like these guys are making millions of dollars. But at the end of the day, the guys that are controlling them are billionaires, right? So it is a totally different mentality of like, these are pieces on a board that I just trade and move how I want. I have full control because I own the organization. And the NFL set it up like that. And the players have signed year after year these deals that are not, player friendly, which I guess they really don't have a choice because the owners really control everything. I agree with the being frustrated, but I think it's a player by player basis, right? I feel bad for Russell Wilson. I have absolutely zero sympathy for Deshaun Watson. He knew what he was getting into, and he still signed the deal because he wanted the money. He saw the dollar signs. And to be honest with you, I hope Houston makes him play. I want to see if he's as convicted as he is that he'll sit out. I highly doubt it.
He's not sitting out.
So I just want to see. Now, Russell Wilson, he deserves to get traded. My personal opinion.
There's two. I agree with you pretty much all. I pretty much agree with everything you said. Deshaun Watson just watched DeAndre Hopkins get traded last offseason and signed a contract extension 1 month later. I mean, that's his fault. We talked about it last year. Why the hell did he just re-sign? He knew he could have played out the last year and left. He didn't have to re-sign. He's seen the writing on the wall. He knew this team was bad. They weren't that great last year with DeAndre Hopkins, to be fair. Granted, they were playoff contenders, but, I mean, look at the AFC now. Do they think they were going to compete with all these upcoming teams like the Browns and the Bills and the Dolphins? I mean, he should have known better. Now he's just butthurt because DeAndre and JJ are both out in Arizona together living the high life on a team that probably will compete for a playoff spot this year. They did last year. Their defense should be better. We'll talk about Watt signing later. But Russell Wilson's different. He's been there for years. He's proved his point there. And Seattle just hasn't helped them. They've drafted 22 linemen since 2016. 3 of them made it past 2 years on the roster. I mean, whose fault is that? That's not Russell's fault. They can't draft. Now, there's talk that Seattle really don't trust Russell throwing the ball as much, so they might want to go penny up for a Aaron Jones because maybe they feel relying on the defense like they did back in the day and having Russell, play game manager and run the ball might be the best way for him, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. But that pro athletes need to take a page out of Alex's boy, LeBron James's playbook, because he kind of set the precedent for how you should approach these contracts. What did he do with Cleveland when he came back? He signed a 2-year deal with a player option for the 3rd year. That way, if that team did not put pieces around him that he was happy with, he could leave. Who's the next quarterback up? Lamar Jackson? I'm signing a 2-year deal with Baltimore with an option for a 3. And then if Baltimore don't give me good receivers, I'm leaving. I'm not going to sign a 7-year contract and be stuck there. I would use the LeBron James approach. He started it in basketball. I don't know why they can't just translate it over to the NFL. Rookie contracts, you're kind of stuck. That goes for any sport. But if I was Deshaun Watson, I would sign a 2-year, what's he making, 30? 2-year, $60 million deal with a player option for year 2. And then right now he'd be a free agent because he could opt out. But no, he took the big paycheck. He took the $60 million up front, and now he's got to deal with it. I mean, be smarter about it. Is Patrick Mahomes going to be – let's talk about in 4 years when he's making $50 million and Joe Burrow's making $60 because that's where the damn quarterback's salary cap's going to be at that point because they just keep going up. They're not going to go down.
It's insane.
Is it going to be okay that Patrick Mahomes is pissed off? It's like, no, dude, you shouldn't have signed a 10-year contract. You could have signed a 10, but I want 4 or 5 opt-outs. You got to be smart about it. These agents should know better by now. So I blame
that deal. I mean, if you look at Patrick Mahomes, a bad.
I'm just saying, if he gets pissed that his offensive line sucks in 3 years and he's stuck for the next 6 years there, do you feel bad for the guy? He got $500 million. I don't feel bad. You should have been smarter. The agent should be doing better. That's my opinion. Baseball and basketball is doing it smart. Why aren't football?
Yeah, I mean, Patrick Mahomes' deal, if you look at the way it's structured, it's set up to restructure in 3 years, right? They're gonna restructure in 3 years, give him a big bonus, and bring his salary cap hit down quite a bit, right? Because it won't function. The salary cap doesn't function when 35% of your salary cap is spent on your quarterback. It just doesn't make sense, right? So the Mahomes deal, he's probably a once in a generational talent, you know what I mean? And so what you have with him. Now, when all these pieces start to get older, age out, drift off, sign bigger deals other places, we'll really see how he plays, right? But
they're salary cap hell right now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're going to have to make some cuts this year that are going to hurt them.
Damn, dude. Frank Clark's cap number is 26. Mahomes is 25, which that's fine. Chris Jones, 22. Matthew, 20. Tyreek Hill, 16. Fisher, 16. They have 9 players making over $12 million. That's not going to work over the next 10 years. They're going to have to get guys that take pay cuts. They're going to have to be able to draft well and get these rookies, milk them out of their rookie deals, and then draft more. I just worry about the future because the precedent is being set, which Ryan's right. This has happened for a long time, but it seems to be picking up now. Matthew Stafford kind of busted this door open. He has to be traded. He got traded in 2 days. And now everybody's like, hey, I want traded now. How do I get traded? And it's just going to be one of those trends that any player that has a hair up their ass is going to want to demand a trade. And I feel like that's going to be an issue, especially in the NFL.
Yeah, and the big difference with the Lions, obviously, in Houston is that seemed to be pretty mutual. The Lions, I think they're realizing, all right, we got to start rebuilding. We got to do something. It's not working with Stafford right now. We got to kind of see what we can get for him and go from there. So they're paying a lot less money with Goff. They're going to go that route.
Who just got traded? And Hopkins tweeted at him and said, or not Hopkins, but Watson tweeted at him and said, tell me how I can get traded. Who the hell just got moved?
Outside of Stafford?
Talking about Carson Wentz?
Yeah, that was it.
Wentz.
Yeah, he said, how do I demand a trade and want moved? Like, that's the thing. I forgot about Carson Wentz because there's another guy. Granted, Philly, we talked about it last week. Philly completely bobbled that whole situation. Howie Roseman's a complete jackass. But it's another thing. He wanted out. He got out. Stafford wanted out. Granted, you're right. That was a mutual thing. But it's still starting a trend of where Watson sees it like, I can get out. And Russell's like, man, I am sick of getting hit. The real reason, let's not overlook the real reason he wants out, because his wife, her music sucks nowadays, but whatever. But she wants to live in New York or Dallas or Chicago. She wants to live in one of these big cities, which Seattle is not. All it does is rain there, and she hates it. So that's really why he wants out. So he can play the whole, I'm sick of getting hit shit. But what's going to happen, like I said, when all these other quarterbacks, I'm unhappy. So-and-so got this. I want out.
To be fair, if I'm Russell, you're absolutely right. There is there's the wife thing as well. She wants to go to a bigger market. There's a reason why New Orleans, Chicago, Dallas, and Las Vegas were the big ones.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
He's like the Raiders.
I'm not demanding a trade, but I'll go to these teams. It's kind of convenient. Anyways, if you go back 2 years, 2 years ago, who's a better quarterback, Russell Wilson or Dak Prescott? Stupid question. Dak Prescott 2 years made $51 million in endorsements with Pepsi, Campbell's Soup, Sleep Train, New Era hats. Russell was sponsored by Bose.
Yep.
There's something about being in a bigger market where you're right. The contract's going to play a factor, but why is Dak getting all these endorsements as opposed to Russell Wilson, who might be one of the most likable guys in the NFL? It's not that Dak's so much cooler. It's because he's in Dallas. And the Cowboys,
the face of the Cowboys.
It's the biggest market. Yes.
Yeah, Jerry Jones has connections in every industry, right?
So I get it.
Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest with you. I'm surprised Russell Wilson hasn't asked for a trade 2 years ago. I'm legit. I'm not being funny about this. Now, obviously, I feel like he would have done this in back channels 2 years ago because he wasn't as upset as he is now. But if you look...
He's back channeling now is the thing.
Sure.
That's Russell's MO. He's the, Joe Cool, man. He's not going to go out there. He's not going to post on Twitter. He's not going to say anything negative. And it's not even him that's saying it. It's his agent. So doing the dirty work. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, for sure. I just, if you look at Russell Wilson in the beginning of the year, right? We were talking about this dude winning the MVP. Like, it was his award to lose. And then from week 7 on, right, or week 8 on, look at what happened. The hits added up. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it that he had an undocumented concussion, right? Like, he was a different player the second half of the year. He did not look confident. He looked like he was running for his life. It was ugly. It was almost like watching Drew Brees at the end of the year where he just like fell off a cliff, right? But we know that Russell's got plenty of juice left in the tank. He hasn't fallen off the cliff. It's the fact that he doesn't have an offensive line. He only has DK. I get it. Their number 2 wide receiver is not a bad wide receiver. But to me, he's more of a 3 than he is a 2. So they need, it'd be nice to have a good tight end up there. It'd be nice to have a good, reliable running back instead of, Chris Carson, who's always hurt, or Rashad Penny, who God knows what a wasted draft pick that was. How about you pick up an offensive lineman in that position in the first round instead of a running back, which you could have gotten the third round? Like, let's talk about,
Now they don't have a first-round pick for the next 2 years.
Right. We bash and we bash Houston, and they deserve it, right? I mean, Bill O'Brien is one of the worst coach/GMs in the history of the NFL. I'll put his record against any. I don't care if he won divisions. He was in a weak division. He had the best quarterback in the division, except for when Andrew Luck was there. Then it was probably a tie between him and Deshaun. But, he had a lot of advantages. They had a great defense that he inherited with Cushing and J.J. Watt and Merciless. And I can go on and on. That Houston was a good team when Bill O'Brien took over, and he single-handedly dismantled it, right? So he deserves all the credit he gets for dismantling that good team at one point in time. But we don't talk about Seattle because Seattle won a Super Bowl thanks to Russell Wilson and that defense, right? And they could have won two if damn
run the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
Nah, listen, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it.
I was like,
I'm sure you are okay with it. I'm sure you are okay with it, but you want Russell Wilson to be the face of your franchise instead of beast mode, who you knew you were cutting at the end of the year.
Let me ask you this because this is a relevant question now. So back then, the rumor was that Pete didn't trust Russell or wanted to put Russell in that position to kind of prove he was the guy to make that throw. Do you think there's a chance that Pete Carroll might be the problem here? Because there's rumor swirling because Carroll's not getting young.
Pete Carroll is the problem. How do you think
they could fire him?
How do you not? How does everybody not see that Pete Carroll's the problem?
I agree with you.
He never won anywhere until he inherited a Super Bowl roster. He hit the lottery with Russell Wilson
in the 90s.
Right,
but would you move off of Pete Carroll?
You can't. The guy's the GM and the coach there. How are you going to move off of him? He's got a Super Bowl ring. He went to 2 Super Bowls. They continually make the playoffs despite
what if it comes
him.
Down to it's one or the other?
Then they probably trade Russell Wilson because Pete Carroll has all the power.
The owner has all the. Can the owner
stop, dude. We've
Paul
talked
Allen,
about this.
The Allen family and they're very close. Is the problem and they would get rid of Russell before they got rid of Carroll. There's no doubt about that.
So the question is this, right? Is that Russell is aged in their opinion, right? He's older, right? The guy's still a top 3 quarterback to me. I don't care what age he is. Look at what Tom Brady just
40
did.
40 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, 70% passing.
It doesn't matter to them. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is, right? Like, but that's Pete Carroll's opinion. That's not, you know what I mean? I'll be honest with you. I don't think Pete Carroll ever wanted Russell Wilson as his quarterback.
Why the hell did he draft him?
But that was when Pete Carroll, if you remember, didn't have as much power as he has now. It is slowly.
Matt Flynn, right? And then he took.
He wanted Matt Flynn. Think about this. Tell me, watching Matt Flynn, how he beat Russell Wilson in any quarterback competition in camp. Please explain.
Well, he didn't.
He didn't. But Matt Flynn started the year.
Didn't he start? Didn't he throw like 6 touchdowns for Green Bay, and that's where he got his deal? Wasn't it something like that?
Yep.
Listen, he got signed for 1 game, but my point is
the Brock Osweiler contract.
My point is there, by all accounts of everybody that they've talked to about that camp, Russell Wilson looked like a seasoned veteran from the moment he walked on the field in camp. He was composed and ready to go, and Pete still chose Matt Flynn. So I think this all boils down to he didn't want Russell Wilson as his quarterback to begin with, and then it just so happened that it was a snowball effect, and then Russell took over, and then before he knew it, they were in 2 Super Bowls, and they had won 1 of them, and they would have won 2 if he wasn't an idiot and made a bad call. And so he's like, well, I'm stuck with this guy now because he's the face of our franchise. And so then they started shipping out defensive players because supposedly they chose Russell over them. If you listen to Richard Sherman and, all these other guys that supposedly, Russell was the golden child. But I think, and all in all, he saved Pete Carroll's career. He was terrible everywhere he was, except for in college, before Russell Wilson in the NFL. He was terrible. He had 2 shots before this. Horrendous. He lucked into Russell Wilson in the 3rd round. Russell Wilson changed the trajectory of his career. Now he'll be a Hall of Fame coach, right? He'll make it in the Hall of Fame because he's got the ring and he went to 2, and they've got enough playoff wins, and, he's made the playoffs so much. And people think that, Carroll is a genius. I think they won in spite of Carroll. I'm not trying to be a jerk. I feel from the outside looking in, not as a Seahawks fan, that's what I've seen over the years. They've won in spite of Pete Carroll.
All right. 2 questions before we move on to J.J. Watt. Do you think he gets moved? And if he were to get moved, which team do you think is the best fit out of the 4 that he has on his list?
You said Russell Wilson. You meant Russell Wilson, right? You said J.J. Watt, but I got you.
Well, before we move on to J.J. Watt, I wanted to finish with Russell with this one. The Bears, Saints, Cowboys, or Raiders?
To me, the Cowboys make the most sense for both teams, right? Because
you swap Dak, right?
What would happen what would have to happen?
No, you just don't sign Dak. Just let him go.
But I don't think that happens. I think for that deal to be made, it would have to be a sign and trade, right? They would sign Dak to maybe a 3-year deal, right? Whatever Seattle would agree to, right? They're not going to agree to a 5-year deal because I'm not paying Dak $40 million a year because that's apparently what he wants. He thinks he's worth close to Patrick Mahomes' money, which is a fucking joke. A joke. So, yeah, I think it would be, Dak and 3 first-rounders. And listen, with what Cowboys have, if they could make some moves in the offseason as far as defense, pick up 1 or 2 pieces, what they have right now offensively would be the best offense Russell's ever had. So imagine he's getting 40 touchdowns with the offense he's got now with just basically DK. Imagine what he could do with that offense, right? I mean, they could just outscore people.
I'll say this. With what you were saying, Alex, when it comes to I actually think that I think that there's a riff right now because the fact that it's coming out that he wants to be traded when we're referring to Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll. There's a riff now, but I don't know that it's been a big deal. I think if you go back and look at the Seahawks, they led the league in rushing attempts for like 4 years while Russell was there. He hasn't been the big gunslinger to throw 4,500 yards. Hell, I think he's 9 years in the league. I think he's only thrown for 4,000 maybe 4 times, like not even the majority of his career. He's just been a smart, good quarterback. Now, there's a big trend this past year of let him cook. Like literally was trending on Twitter every Sundays, let Russ cook. And they did. And they went 12-4. Like it would be a terrible idea to trade your star quarterback, star player, the face of your city. They need to buckle down and literally have a conversation. What do you need? What do we need to do to make you happy? Russell isn't getting paid a crazy amount of money compared to where his elite status is. He shouldn't go anywhere. To answer your question, Josh, to be fair, if he were to go somewhere, I agree with Alex. It should be the Cowboys because the Cowboys, if they franchise Dak one more time, they're paying like 40-something million. And if they do it again next year, it's like $50 million. In the past 10 years, a winning quarterback for a Super Bowl team was just about the average is 9.5 to 10.5% of their cap space. Any team that thinks that they're going to win with a quarterback taking up 25 to 35% of cap space, that blow, it's stupid. It's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. So Cowboys, but Seattle should make him happy. Go out there, spend some money, get some line for him, and then continue to win 12 games a year. It pisses me off because I don't see the issue. Why are we upset? Make the guy happy.
Yeah, with Russell, I agree with you. With Deshaun, he made his bed. He can sleep in it at this point.
Yeah.
But
so the crazy part is, just 1 sec. I want to add real quick to what Ryan said. So you're right. He only threw for 4K 4 times. The 5th time, though, he threw for 3,987 yards. So I'm going to count that as 4K. Right, but with all that being said, not throwing for 4K, we always talk about Matt Stafford 5K every year, right? But with the guy throwing for an average, I think it's like 3,700 yards a year, he's averaging 29.6 touchdowns a year. So 30 touchdowns. That's insane.
It's good numbers.
Think about the proficiency of that, right? And besides that, he's averaging, well, this year was his high for interceptions, but it was also his high for touchdowns, right? He beat his previous high by 6 touchdowns. So he threw 2 more touchdowns than his high. So he's averaging, I think it's 9 point. I'll tell you, it's 9 something. I mean, his efficiency is insane. And so I feel, it's 9 on the dot, right? So I feel like you shouldn't move off of him. But if he's unhappy, how do you make him happy short of getting rid of Pete Carroll? And I honestly don't know if we're at that point. But if we're at the point he's working back channels and he's a guy that doesn't do that, we might be at that point, right? Like, he felt disrespected. It's come out and been said, he's had multiple occasions where he's wanted to put input on the offense, and Pete Carroll just kind of chuckles him off like, whatever, dude, go throw the ball. It's like they do in basketball. Go dribble. Don't tell me your opinion. Just go dribble the basketball, right? Like, go throw me touchdowns and make me a Hall of Fame coach, but I don't want your opinion on anything, right? So,
Seattle's problem is they're up against the cap.
Oh, yeah, of course. What team isn't? There's like 4 teams that are under the cap right now or something?
Luckily for them, they have some options. So I'm with you. If he were to go somewhere, it's Dallas. If I'm Dallas, I'm like, I'll give you Dak and Zeke. Here's your running back. Here's your quarterback. We'll give you 2 ones. You're throwing in that extra one to get them to take Zeke off your hands, because I think Tony Pollard at this point is the better running back, and I want him to start if I'm Dallas. That's just me personally. But he's going to stay.
Well, that helps Dallas cap-wise, but I don't think Seattle can absorb those cap.
They wouldn't. They could, but like, just to keep Russell. I mean, Bobby Wagner's $17 million. They can restructure him. Carlos Dunlap's a $14 million clean cut. Cut him. Cut him outright. You got him for like a 5th round pick. Just cut the damn guy. Dwayne Brown, $13.5, $2 million dead cap. Cut him.
I mean, but do you want their defense wasn't amazing last year. Do you want to continue to clean the cupboards out on that defense? It wasn't. Were they even top 10 last year?
They're gonna have to. I keep telling everybody, there's one lineman on the market, and I've seen him play for the last 7 years in New England, that is the best lineman available. And any team that needs protection for their quarterback, granted he plays left guard, but he's one of the best damn guards in the league. Joe Thuney should be the guy Seattle goes after on that left side. If Dwayne Brown's their left tackle, he's not terrible. Sign Joe Thuney, at least solidify one side of the damn line. Brandon Shell didn't.
How is New England going to let Thuney go?
New England has the dude from Michigan, the rookie who played all 5 spots on the line, who actually was the highest rated rookie in the NFL according to PFF, but he plays offensive line, so nobody gives a shit except me because I like New England. So they have flexibility there. So are they going to pay Joe Thuney $16 million, or use this guy on his $600,000 rookie scale and use that 16 elsewhere? And they'll find a guard that the Cardinals cut later, and he'll be all pro in 2 years. But Russell's going to stay. He should stay. And if I'm Seattle, I'm calling Bobby Wagner and like, listen, let's make this work. Bobby Wagner is slowing down. I know Seattle fans don't want to hear that, but he's slowing down quickly. $17.5 million? No, sir. We're going to take you down to like 10. We need to get – he should respect the fact that Russell wants to be happy and needs help. Dunlap, gone. Jaron Reed, restructured. Dwayne Brown, $13.5 million. Get the hell out of here. The punter's making $4 million. Stop. They have your boy Rashad Penny, Alex, $3.5 million. They're paying like 6 running backs over $2 million. And none of them are good. And they're losing their best back in free agency. I don't know what they're going to do, but they're going to have to get creative quickly. They don't have a first-round pick the next 2 years because they went out and got a safety, which doesn't help Russell at all. So Seattle, listen, it sounds nuts. They could be, as of right now, I would expect them to finish last in that division next year.
Yeah, I mean, Seahawks have $3.5 million in cap space. What are they going to do? They ain't signing nobody.
No, and you look at their free agents. I mean, what the hell? They're losing some key guys. KJ Wright. I mean, Greg Olsen. Hollister was their starting tight end. Granted, Carlos Hyde. Mike Upati. He was their starting right guard. And it's not as bad as I thought at first glance, but still. it's going to be interesting. Seattle is very limited on what they're having to, or what they can do going forward. So it's man, Russell
I
Wilson.
just don't. I don't think Seattle can afford to trade Russell Wilson as far as cap space goes.
Dude,
like I just don't think
Seattle's got to. Hey, if I'm Seattle, I'll go up to Russell like, hey, you need some help? I need you to restructure. You're our biggest cap hit.
I think
But
the
anyway,
NFC West is going to be the big topic of discussion in the 2021 season. That is just there's a lot going on there, and you have a lot of really good teams. So
yeah,
it's going to be interesting.
Listen, everybody's picking the Rams. That's like the favorite bet. I'm telling you right now, I think the 49ers win the division outright, and I don't think it's close. I think they win 13 games as long as Garoppolo is healthy. If he's healthy, they're a different team, right? He is what he is, right? I don't think Garoppolo is a franchise quarterback, but I also think he's a little bit better than a game manager. But what he does for the rest of that team, as far as confidence-wise, I think is what makes the difference there, right? So I don't know, man. I think San Francisco wins this division, and I don't think J.J. Watt makes a damn bit of difference for the Cardinals. I still think they're going to not make the playoffs. They're going to be the third team in that division, and I think it's funny that this guy came out and said he wants to be part of a winning organization and wants to compete, and then he just wants to compete for the playoffs. Not for a Super Bowl ring, which is ultimately what you want. I want to compete for the playoffs. Give me a break, dude. You've been in the playoffs. You've done that your career. You went to go play with your buddy in Arizona where you can live free and have fun on Lake Havasu and live the party life with your wife, and your wife's an athlete as well, so you're close to big money market, but have fun, dude.
Let's look at their defense. Let's talk.
Enjoy being the Texans West. Being Texans West. That's what it's going to be.
You guys need to stop calling them that. They have 2 players on their 60-man roster from
Houston.
Houston.
I mean, as far as the way they're going to do it, I'm not talking about the fact
now,
they have
if
Texans.
Deshaun gets traded for Kyler Murray, then they're the Houston Texans of the
Stop.
West.
That'd be the dumbest trade ever.
Let's break down their defense with him added, okay? And I'm with you. The price tag caught me completely off guard. So it's 2 years, $31 million, 23 guaranteed. So at least 11 and a half a year. That's a huge price tag for a guy who hasn't played a full season, and I couldn't tell you how long. I think he's
last year.
Games a year.
Played last year. All
16
games.
I think over the last 5 years, he's averaging 6 a year. Granted, when he does play, he ranks top 10 in everything, which is what people look at.
Except for last year when he had 5 sacks.
Yeah, but see,
he played all 16 games, 5 sacks. That I don't care.
So you joined a defensive. They got Chandler Jones, but he's coming off a major injury. You got Jordan Hicks. You got Buda Baker, Buda Baker's going to be a baller.
Simmons is going to be a stud.
You have Simmons is going to be. Kennard's pretty solid, and they're now interested in re-signing Patrick Peterson, which is interesting because I thought they were going to cut him up until this move got made. So apparently they're going to go for it all again, which is weird. The defensive line's still pretty Zach Allen and Corey Peters in the middles. On the outside, they're pretty good, but I don't know how much better it makes their defense. Offensively, their problem is they don't have an offensive line. Kyler Murray's running for his life as soon as he gets the ball, and Kenyon Drake
looks like Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl.
Yes, so
the guy averages like 500 yards a game running for his life. Like, it's insane.
Ryan, so the Cardinals were what last year? 9-7, 8-8, something like that.
8-8.
I think it was 8-8.
So does this move make them any better than last year?
They possibly go to 9-7.
Does it make them better? No, I don't think it makes them better. But you'd be hard pressed to find a single edge rusher to go to a different team and make that whole team, but from a record standpoint, better. You're going to get better statistics, but typically when you sign a player like this, you give up something on another side. I think this is a good team. I think that they're in a pretty tough division. They're in a division where you got some good quarterbacks in this division. And I think they see this, they see Stafford going to LA, and they're probably like, okay, we need to keep up we need to get to the quarterback is essentially what's going on here. And I don't want to say he came at a discount, but I think he wanted more money. I genuinely thought he was going to go to Buffalo or Green Bay because that seemed to fit the best. Those teams need a good edge rusher like this guy, or at least a name. What you get with J.J. Watt is you're not just getting a player who I think he's good. I don't think his statistics from last year show how good he is. He's a leader in the locker room. He's going to show up and he's going to set a precedent. I think he's going to make everybody else better, especially a guy like Chandler Jones, who probably needs a little bit of a, hold my pocket kind of thing. He's going to make Chandler Jones better. Are they going to be better? Yes. Is it going to make them a contender? I don't think so. I still think they're a ways from that. I think they have a great head coach. I love their head coach.
Go ahead.
I think that their quarterback is the limit of how far they can go.
I'll tell you.
I'm not a believer.
I'll tell you, edge rusher who made an immediate impact. Khalil Mack. The guy went from the Raiders to the Bears. He had a 12.5 sacks, 6 forced fumbles, 3 pass deflections and an interception, and they went from 12th to number 1 ranked defense in 2018, right? From 17 to 18. So that one guy in the history of probably all edge rushers is the only guy but that defense was much more solid than this defense is as a whole, right? You have Patrick Peterson on the back end of his career, right? They had a young secondary, right? They had young guys, right? So you're right. I agree with you. You're right. I don't think there's many edge rushers that make a big impact. I think Khalil Mack just went to the perfect situation, right?
Oh, no, I give you Khalil Mack 100%. That's a good call.
But that's the only one.
I don't think the Raiders were worse for losing Khalil Mack, though. Go ahead. That's a different subject.
Yeah, I'm possibly, right? That's neither here nor there. But he made a direct, immediate impact on that defense as far as confidence, as far as, his 12.5 sacks, his rushes, everything really helped out the rest of that defense, right? It really solidified. But besides him, you're right. I don't think there is another edge rusher that's going to make that kind of – I don't think Aaron Donald, who we can probably argue since he's been in the league, is probably the defensive player of the year. Every year you can make an argument for it. I don't think if you put him on a defense, it's not one piece away, he makes that big a difference, right? I agree with you. It's about scoring points at the end of the day in the NFL. They've made it that way. All the rules are designed to score points. And let's be honest, J.J. Watt is not J.J. Watt of Defensive Player of the Year, J.J. Watt. He's just not, right? Yeah. He's just not. So, part of this stings because I feel like if he comes to the Browns, he's that last piece we need, right? All of our secondaries coming back healthy this year. We're going to draft a linebacker with our first pick, I'm sure, at 26. It'll probably be the kid out of Missouri. I feel like that's probably the guy we end up with. And so I really think that he would have made a huge difference in Cleveland. But the reports were it was between Buffalo and Arizona. Well, If I want to win, I'm going to Buffalo. They were 1 game away from the Super Bowl. And their defense wasn't as good as it had been in the years past. Right. It wasn't as good. Like the year, if they'd had the defense from the year before, I think they give Kansas City a game, and maybe we're talking about Buffalo in the Super Bowl instead of Kansas City, right? So don't tell me. Just come out and be honest and say, look, I want to go to a vacation city and hang out with my boys and party on Lake Havasu. Don't tell me you want to win Super Bowls because you don't. This is not the move of a guy who wants to win a Super Bowl. The Cardinals will not be in the hunt for a Super Bowl for 3 to 5 years. Mark my words. I don't care what all these people. I'm in the sports box chat, and they're all this is a great bullshit. They're not going to be competitive. They're not going to be competitive. Period. End of subject. They're the 3rd best team at most in their division. So in the NFC conference, what does that make them? 8th or 9th? So maybe they sneak into the playoffs. That's fine. They can make the playoffs. They can be a wild card and lose in the first round. Congratulations. Go play Green Bay in Green Bay. You're a sunny team, and you go play in Green Bay in the wintertime, and you're all cramping up, and you can't get to Aaron Rodgers because he's more mobile than you, have fun. Be in a first-round exit. Congratulations, Arizona and J.J. Watt. You're great. You overpaid an aging guy who's not going to make you that much better.
I ain't got much to add. Listen, the only thing relevant for Arizona this year is going to be the breakout tight end in fantasy football, my boy Dan Arnold. But other than that, I'm good. Dan Arnold, the most undervalued tight end in the history of the NFL. But anyway, let's.
Well, yeah, because Kyler's running for his life, so he's got to look for his biggest target every time.
He had some nice games last year, but
yeah.
Let's go to some rumors. Some stuff's hit today. So Kyle Rudolph got cut after 10 years. Irv Smith, that's the guy now, which we kind of saw that last year. Do you guys still think Kyle Rudolph can be useful for like a team that's ready to win now?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Indianapolis, I'm kicking the tire on him.
I am too. That's who came to mind first.
I mean, they got Mo Ali Cox, right? Who I like. I think is an underrated tight end.
Him and Ebron are both, or him and Burton are both free agents.
Right. So they're gonna re-sign one of them, right? But Kyle Rudolph gives you the option to only have to re-sign one, and then Kyle Rudolph's a good insurance policy, right? Like you brought up San Francisco before we came on the air, and I think that's a good option. I just don't know what kind of money Kyle's going to demand at this point in his career. Is it a J.J. Watt where it's like, okay, yeah, I want to compete, but I also want to be overpaid, right? So, I mean, and granted, Kyle Rudolph's not in the stratosphere of J.J. Watt as far as like, pinnacle of his career. I'm not exaggerating in that, but I'm just saying, is Kyle Rudolph going to want to get paid starting tight end money? And so if he is he going to go to a team like San Francisco where he knows the team runs through Kittle? Is he going to, he's going to have to take a diminished role, right? Or would he be interested in going to Indianapolis, who has money in cap space? Or better yet, this is honestly probably the best fit, Buffalo Bills. It already worked out one time. You already took some Vikings leftovers as they thought, and with Stephon Diggs, Kyle Rudolph's got a familiarity with Stephon Diggs already, right? He's better than what they got right now at tight end. Why not pick him up? Why not kick the tires? Bring him in for a workout, whatever. See what he's got left. Because I think this is a cap move by the Vikings.
They save $5 million.
Right. So this is a cap move for them, right? Let me see what they are cap wise, because I got the website.
We talked about this last week. There's going to be a lot of cuts like this that teams.
So Vikings are $5 million over right now. So this probably puts them real close to even with cap space.
I mean, your point. The teams with cap space. Let's talk about contenders. The Jaguars and Jets are there, but they're not contending for shit for the next 5 years. New England, the Colts. The Dolphins got $38 million now that they cut Van Noy. The Chargers, the Browns got 20. Dallas got 20.
Yeah, Bills are $1 million over, but I'm sure they can restructure to get
I'm sure
under.
There's ways. They have a lot. Buffalo's left tackle's making a lot of money for being below average.
Just like,
Buffalo has some terrible contracts.
Tell Kyle Rudolph, hey, come here. We'll give you a 1 year, $5 million deal. Let's make it happen, see how it goes, and then if you play well, we'll give you a longer term deal, right?
You know who like his best fit probably would be, and he'd probably love to stick it to Minnesota? What if he went to Green Bay?
Oh my Lord! I mean,
on the other side of Tanyan, you give Rodgers 2 legit weapons there.
Plus, they're probably going to pick up another wide receiver in this free agency.
Do you think the Packers learned their lesson last offseason when Rodgers got pissed off?
Yeah, I mean, listen. They'll never live down the choice of picking a quarterback. They'll never live it down, right? They're never going to live that down.
Be on Green Bay next year.
Do what?
AJ Green's going to be the guy they sign. They've been flirting for years over trade with the Bengals. He's a free. I know, but
he's
that's
done. To me, he's
washed. Aaron Rodgers loves washed up things. Look at all his girlfriends, so he'll take AJ Green in.
I mean, I guess, man. Me personally, I'm gonna, call up Kenny Galladay. I'm gonna call.
Dude, that would be a kick in the nuts.
I'm gonna call up a true burner, right? Because as good as Adams is, if you had a true burner on the other side of him that you can't double team because you got to double team Adams, think about how many, Rodgers threw for 40 touchdowns this year. Think about how many more touchdowns he's going to have with a true burner on the other side that he can just throw that pretty ball that he throws up in the air and they can just run it down and catch it, right?
Well, here's going to be your question. Do you invest in Aaron Jones? Or
in Green Bay?
Yeah, because you probably can't do both.
I'm never paying a running back ever in the NFL. You get burnt when you do it. Like, as much as I love Nick Chubb and everything else, I do not want the Browns to sign him to a long-term deal for a lot of money. Like, you can get running backs in the third round. Running backs are going to have to accept that they're going to have to take less money. If they don't, shop them every year. Like, no, man, you can't pay a running back. It can't. A running back cannot be more than 3% of your salary cap, period, or you're just not going to win. Look at all the teams that win Super Bowls. Their running backs don't take up a large majority of their salary cap. It's just facts. I fought this for a long time, right? Because I enjoy guys like Jim Brown and historical running backs who I think really drove their teams. But we're not in that type of league anymore, right? You're better to have a guy like Alvin Kamara and McCaffrey who can do everything. You can pay them because they can do everything, right, at a high level. But you can't pay a prototypical running back. And I think Aaron Jones, for what he is, he's not on Alvin Kamara. He's not on McCaffrey's level. He's not even though he plays every down, I don't think he's an every down back. He's not a number one receiving option for me out of the backfield. So I just think you can't overpay for running backs anymore. It's just, it kills you. It kills you. Puts you in salary cap hell. Look at the Cowboys. I mean, it was a terrible deal with Zeke. Terrible deal. I mean, it's like the only mistake they've made in years, but it's having a huge effect on them. So, yeah, this draft pick of the wide receiver was another bad one. But other than that.
Yeah, but Lamb's going to be a beast.
That's great, but you don't need him. Go ahead, Ryan. I'm sorry for cutting you off.
There's no chance that they re-sign him. It'd be dumb to do that. When you're referring to a burner, somebody the Packers need to go after is like a Will Fuller. Will Fuller is a guy that can stretch the field and has the hands, and he's proved it. He's bailed Deshaun out on the crazy run-outs that he's done, thrown it 50 yards down the field, and he comes down with those catches. That's a guy that they need. The Packers had the number 2 line in the NFL last year. We quickly forget that, and we put a lot – Aaron Jones, in his mind, I'm going to get paid crazy. You ran behind the second best line in the league with one of the best quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. Pump the brakes. You know what I mean? They still have Jamal Williams, A.J. Dillon, who was a rookie last year. The Packers are going to be good for a while as long as Rodgers is still is behind center.
Draft another running back in the 4th round. They
don't need a running back. They got 2 good ones.
But draft him, if you need to, if you feel like you're hurting by not having a running back, draft another one in the 4th round.
Take a flyer on one of these 1-year guys like a Carson or a Gurley.
Don't overpay at this position. Every team in the NFL, don't overpay at this position anymore. It is what it is.
Let's just say the NFL needs to learn with what happened with the Leonard Fournette situation, that if you put a guy behind a decent line and let him just run between the tackles if you give somebody some room, any running back's going to get yardage out of it. The guy has a Super Bowl ring and he was cut. Nobody wanted him. Now he's got a Super Bowl ring.
I mean, look at
in the NFL.
Look at Tony Pollard, right? Everybody 100%. Doubted Tony Pollard, right? He was not highly touted. He wasn't drafted high. And now he looks better than Zeke, right? Because why? Because Zeke was the workhorse for years in Dallas now, right? And that, even though he had a great offensive line, it wears on you. You have a short shelf life. Running back is the shortest shelf life in the NFL. It just is. It's a fact because you're beat on, pounded on, right? And then if you're a guy like Zeke or Fournette or, Beast Mode or Todd Gurley, they run you 30, 35 times a game. That shortens your career. It is what it is. I'm not overpaying for a running back. I'm praying to God the Browns don't make the mistake and overpay Chubb when his contract time comes up. Find another draft pick. I'm sorry, man. Draft another running back. I love Chubb. But
unless your name is Frank Gore, you have a 7-year shelf life. That guy, I don't know what he's eating or drinking.
Him and AP.
Hey, they can sign Frank Gore.
Him and AP. Him and Adrian Peterson.
It's insane. Good for them.
Nuts.
Good for
them.
Yeah.
Nuts.
Yeah. My prediction for Green Bay, I think they end up with Will Fuller and AJ Green. AJ is going to be cheap. Will Fuller, AJ has no leverage to come out and be like, I need $15 million.
If AJ is your slot, oh my Lord,
because
dude.
Think about what they have, though. Scouting played well at the end of last year. Lazard's pretty solid. That just knocks them a notch down on the depth chart.
That puts him in Tampa Bay's receiving core range, right?
Does,
like you don't have the flashiness of Kansas City, but you have 5 legit guys that if one gets hurt, you can move on to the next guy, right? Like,
and we're about to go. We're about to do the top 10 running backs going into after a show commercial here in a second. But you can pull in one of these guys that we're going to talk about for 1 year. $1 million with incentives and throw him behind that line, like Ryan said. You could realistically end up with Todd Gurley, Will Fuller, and AJ Green all in one offseason for like $18 million between them for 1 year. And Will Fuller taking about 16 of that.
Todd Gurley didn't look terrible in Atlanta in limited use, right? Like he's not a full-time back anymore.
Look at Zeke once Tyrone Smith got hurt, and once that left guard got hurt, and once Frederick got hurt and retired. Now look at Tony Pollard. The faster, more athletic back can get around the edge. Zeke just runs to the hole, and if he doesn't get there, he falls down. I mean, it's where he's
probably tired of getting punished.
True.
That's fair. But before we talk about the running backs, check out all of our great audio podcasts over at The Buzz. All right, I was going to try to be smart and put these guys in some kind of order, but I didn't because I kept going down the list and I couldn't pick the top 10 because there's a lot of solid running backs available. I mean, players that aren't even on this list that I made. Matt Breida is a free agent. Tevin Coleman's a free agent. Mark Ingram, even though he's at the end of his career, he's more like a mentor stage at this point. Duke Johnson just got cut. It's a deep running back market for a lot of 1 year guys.
Nobody's paying running backs anymore.
Well,
like,
I'm going to start with
the guy. NFL now.
I'm going to start with a guy that might be looking to get paid after the good year he had last year. Mike Davis with Carolina. Where do you guys think he could end up?
You want to start this, Alex?
No, go ahead, Ryan. Because I don't know where market is really for him.
I have to review cap space because that's going to be that's trending for 2021 is cap space and what teams can even afford at this point. But I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm a San Diego Charger fan. I think that Mike Davis with Austin Eckler side by side, that would be a hell of a tandem with Herbert and the other weapons that they have. I think that'd be a good landing spot for him. He brings in kind of that bruiser mentality, and Eckler, who actually proved he could run in between the tackles pretty well. But that's not his game. That's not his game. I'd love it if it was, but he doesn't have the size for it. He needs to be more of a Kamara scat back style that plays in a little run every now and then. But Mike Davis to the Chargers would be a hell of a move, in my opinion.
All right, so I got 2 teams, Jets or Patriots. Just because the fact that they have the second and third most cap space. So, listen, I think, honestly, that Bill Belichick is going to go out of character this year and pay a little bit more money than he has in the past because time is ticking for him as far as the media and the social goes, right? Like fans, casual fans and diehard fans, right? How did we not make the playoffs? Well, did you look at your roster? Half your team was out in COVID, opting out. Then the other half that you did have was rookies and has-beens like Cam Newton.
No, stop being disrespectful.
So what are you going to do? I told you Cam was done before the year, and then when he signed with the Patriots, I thought Josh McDaniels would figure out a way to utilize him because I had more faith in Josh McDaniels than maybe I should have, right? Maybe Josh is a product of Bill Belichick and not, his own genius in his own right? So, yeah, I just think the Jets make sense because the Jets like to overpay people. So they'll probably overpay Mike Davis, right? They're going to draft probably offensive line, I think. So they're going to stick on the Darnold plan from everything that's coming out of the camp. Now, they could shock everybody and take a quarterback, Justin Fields or the kid that everybody thinks is better than Justin Fields. Now I forget the kid's
Lance.
Wilson?
Lance, yeah, Lance or no Wilson, Zach Wilson. Sorry, and so, but if the Jets are smart, they take a left tackle because they got to protect their quarterback, whatever quarterback they have. And I understand next year is a bad draft for quarterbacks. There's no real true number one stud that everybody, but we've gone into years before where there hasn't been a true number one stud that everybody talks about.
What?
And then,
oh man, I think that this draft is quarterback central.
I'm not talking about this quarterback. I'm talking about next draft.
Okay, sorry.
Next year's draft. Yeah. This draft is the deepest draft we have for quarterbacks
in a
long time, right? There's probably 10 that'll end up getting drafted, right, within the first 3 rounds. So, but next year, not this year's draft, but next year's draft, there's no real true number one. But we've gone into years before where there hasn't been a true number one, and then a guy from Alabama or Ohio State or Michigan, or, well, I won't say Michigan because they've been terrible for a long time. But
you guys get taken in the first round this year. Thank
USC, any other team, big name team, Notre Dame, whatever, they emerge. They've been sitting on the back burner because they have so much talent at these places that they don't get a shot to shine. Then you find out they're a junior and then they're draft eligible and then they're the next darling, right? So if I'm the Jets, we're on a 3 to 5 year plan to be relevant again. So why try and excel that plan by drafting a quarterback and putting undue pressure on a new guy when you're probably going to end up with the same results that you've done with with Donald, right? It's the same thing I talk about Tim Couch all the time, right? Tim Couch, a guy who played at Kentucky, who is not a football school, broke every one of Peyton Manning's SEC records. Came to the Browns. We had no offensive line, 11 concussions in 5 years, couldn't get signed on the practice squad for Green Bay. You're going to do that to another guy, right? You already have Donald. He has shown glimpses that he has a chance to be a starting quarterback. Maybe not what we thought he was going to be, which was maybe a franchise quarterback, but at least a starting quarterback. Protect him, get better in the trenches like you should do, like we all know that's how you win in this league. Draft offensive, defensive line, maybe add a wide receiver in the 3rd round or something like that. Get some free agent help maybe, but don't try and excel this plan of 3 to 5 years. Give Saleh a chance to build that defense, make that team good. I think the Jets make the most sense. I've kind of talked myself into it with this because how are you going to help Darnold, right? Run the ball. So Mike Davis, I think Jets, I think that makes the most sense. So it probably won't happen, but I think that I like the Chargers too because I like what the Chargers are doing out there. I think they're going to be really good offensively. I'm not a fan that they moved off their head coach. I think they should have given him one more year with Herbert. I get what you're saying. I understand that he's a dead duck. It would have been a dead year. I like your hire. I think it's a good hire. But I think for consistency, we've seen in the past, good quarterbacks have been ruined by new system, new terminology every year, right? So if he doesn't do well in 2 years, are you moving off him too? You know what I'm saying? So I think AFC West is a tough division. You should have given Lynn one more year, in my opinion, but it doesn't matter. I like the Chargers pick, but I think Jets make the most sense as far as pay-wise.
I go Jacksonville. They have a lot of money. They only have one running back on the roster. They need a pass-catching back. Mike Davis will take the biggest offer. They'll probably throw him a nice deal.
I mean, they got a good running back on a rookie deal. Why would you waste money at that position?
You need 2, and he's urban. He doesn't do anything smart. You also need a good segue.
You're probably right.
Hey, $6 to $8 million a year is what's projected for Mike Davis going into this offseason. We'll see. He had a great year last year.
I don't think that's terrible money, though. I mean, As long
I
as you
agree.
can,
New
as long
England's
as you
running
can
back
stay
core.
under 10, in my opinion, that's not a bad deal for any running back. That's not a bad deal. But
New England's running back core is like $6 million for all four of them every year. Trust me, I know. It's great. Leonard Fournette. So I don't think he comes back to Tampa. I think he's going to try to cash in, and I think he's going to end up back in Tampa on like another 1-year deal and cash in next year.
yeah, I mean, I don't see him going anywhere but Tampa. Why would you? I mean, Tampa's set to have a 2 to 3 year run. As long as they sure up, they sign their 2 linebackers. Godwin's gone. That's a fact.
They're about to franchise him.
That's stupid. Once
That's
again,
the
we're
that's the
paying a
news.
guy, we're overpaying a guy at a position that is not a primary need. You go 5 deep at wide receiver. You don't think you're going to get a sweetheart deal on Antonio Brown? You don't think that you're going to, you still got Scotty Miller.
Miller.
You still have Mike
Yeah,
Evans
Tyler
locked up.
Johnson.
You got Mike Evans who's going to restructure his deal. You got Tyler Johnson. Like, no chance I'm
Cameron
franchising
Brate,
Godwin.
Gronk,
I'll let
O.J.
Godwin. Godwin could go to the Saints for all I give a shit. They franchise him. That's insane. I think Leonard Fournette stays in Tampa Bay. I think he understands another year with them is only going to improve his market. And there's a lot of running backs this year, as we're talking about. So, if I'm him, I take a $2 or $3 million deal with incentives and stick around in Tampa.
Yeah, outside the Bucks, I see two names that kind of jump out at me. I think that either the Steelers or the 49ers would probably be a good spot for him.
Ooh.
Both teams could use a kind of a vet guy coming off a Super Bowl win kind of season where he actually stayed pretty healthy. His narrative has been he just couldn't stay healthy. He was always a good running back. And then this past year, the Jacksonville Jaguars did not want to pay him. And then for whatever reason, he kind of got blacklisted. This was a good running back. Should have got signed, and he proved it. Like he did well for the Bucks. Hell, like I said, he's got a ring.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
like I said,
he had an impact on that Super Bowl. I mean,
100%. Yeah. Like the guy ran hard in the trenches. I actually think that Ronald Jones is a better running back. I think Ronald Jones is actually really good, but he just the health factor. He's a good ball catcher. I think that's the best part of his game. Actually, is receiving the ball. Anyways, going back to what I was saying, I think that the Steelers and the 49ers on easy, low key 2-year deals that maybe pay him a max of 10 total, five each year with maybe like a 7-year or $7 million guaranteed. Those would be good numbers for him between those two teams.
I like the Steelers pick, except for the fact that they're in the division with us. But losing Connor is going to be a big loss for them. I even though Connor, in my opinion, was shit this last year, I feel like that's a big loss for them because of his potential, what he's shown in the past. I don't think he's done. I just think everybody had a bad year.
Well, that works. Connor's next on my list. He's a free agent.
I think he sticks it to the Steelers and he goes to the Ravens. Legit, because they have a huge hole now, even though they have J.K. Dobbins, right?
And Gus Edwards.
They got Gus Edwards, and Gus Edwards is like the darling. Everybody talks about he rushed for 5 yards a carry, and he should have been starting. And listen, we're not in that running back room. We're not at practice every day. There's a reason why Gus Edwards was the third option this year, right? So they know more than we do. Now, maybe he's good in small spurts, but I just think there's a lot of revenge and motivation factor. Maybe James Conner takes a less than average market deal to go play with the Ravens because I think James Conner thinks he should get paid by the Steelers.
Yeah, I think no matter what happens, he's going to be disappointed. I'll say that about James Conner.
I agree.
He's going to be disappointed. I've always said, and it's, not that I've created this, but it's, your ability is only as good as your availability. And this is a guy that just could not stay healthy. When Le'Veon got hurt and he took over, we're like, wow, look at this guy. This guy's a beast. Coming off, the guy had cancer, lived through it, like he's a fighter. But the past 2 years have kind of been an eyesore, especially last year when he really should have gone in and done pretty well. The Steelers were a weird team last year in general. Like that team was the biggest smoke and mirrors I've ever seen. They were the worst undefeated team through like week 11 that I've ever seen in my life. It was insane. But I think Connor could go to a team like I think the Bills would probably be a good landing spot for him. High incentive, low money, very short deal, and a place where he could possibly win a championship. So I could see him going there. The Bills need a running back. Zach Moss isn't cutting it. Singletary's not the guy either. Maybe they could ride with Connor and see if he can come back from what he was 3 years ago. But either way, like how I heard it, Connor's going to be disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, he's not with the Bills. They just don't have the cap space, so it would have to be an incentive-laden deal. So I don't know. Like, that's the Bills' problem right now, right? They have a couple needs, but they don't have a lot of cap space to work with. So what are they going to do? They're going to have to restructure. Something's going to have to happen here.
I think this is the one the Jets jump on.
You think?
This is the one
I like it.
This is a name where they're like, hey, this guy's young. We can build a line around him, and we can get him, like Ryan said 3 years ago. This guy, I think, is going to Buffalo. Marlon Mack. There's no need for him in Indy because you got Taylor and Hines there, both locked up for long-term deals. You're not going to pay a third back. He's coming off an injury. He missed 15 games last year. So I found market value. His ranges from 2 to 4 because he's coming off an injury. I mean, you're the Niners.
That's a steal.
You're Buffalo. You're the Ravens. You're Pittsburgh. You're any of these. You're hell, New England. I don't even think we have a need at running back, but I would look at Mack still because I think we're going in with 5, even with James White and Burkhead being free agents going into it. Marlon Mack's the most intriguing running back on this market to me because people forget how good he was before he got hurt. He was the starter over Jonathan Taylor. I mean,
he's
Jonathan
a legit
Taylor,
3-down back.
Yes,
right. He has legit receiver skills out of the backfield.
Yeah, David Jones, Jets. That's what they do. They grab cast-offs and they go 2-14. That's what they do. I think Marlon Mack ends up in Buffalo.
That's a good sign. Listen, that really makes them competitive running back, like running wise, right? Josh Allen is not your lead rusher if Marlon Mack is there.
That's their problem. Josh Allen cannot be your lead rusher if you're ever going to win anything.
No, you got to take pressure off of him.
Yes,
you got to limit the hits on him, right? He is clearly proven he is the future of your franchise.
Well, he's finally clearly proven he could throw the damn ball, so now he can quit running.
Stop. Dude.
So everything you said, I fully agree with. Now, the reason why I actually said the Bills would go Connor over Mack is because Connor deserves a low money deal with lots of incentives, and Mack's the opposite. Dude, the guy's 24, I think.
Yeah,
20, he's 24 years old. And he's a guy that nobody expected to be as good as he is. Now, Indy has moved on from. There's no doubt about that. I think that Mack is going to get. I think he's going to get paid more than what the prediction of 5 to 6 would be. I could see him more in the 7 range and signing maybe a 4-year option deal, which for me, I think he goes to the 49ers. I think the 49ers are making another attempt at getting a really good running back. The Jerick McKinnon thing didn't work out. He got hurt. They paid him too much money. They can cut that guy. I think a Marlon Mack in San Francisco in the Bay Area, that would be dangerous. That'll be a scary thing to see.
That'd be interesting. I think he's the most interesting back to follow.
I like both. I like both of those picks. I can't really make arguments against either one.
All right, Kenyon Drake.
Oh my God,
Cardinals.
This guy.
Where else is he going to go? Who else is going to pay him besides the Cardinals?
I mean, teams with running back needs, we pretty much hit all of them. The Jets, the Jaguars. Well, the Jaguars don't really have a need. They need another one, but maybe not a guy like Drake. The Dolphins, which hits where you came from, so that wouldn't make sense. Atlanta.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a running back anymore.
Do you know what the big question is? Is what happened to Kenyon Drake? 2 years ago at the end of the season, this guy was on fire. It's like in fantasy football drafts, hell,
Yes.
This guy could be the number 1 running back in the NFL.
First round this year. He went 8th
100%. And it was warranted based on the numbers that he put up with catching the ball, running the ball. The guy was a great running back. And then all of a sudden last year, I don't know if he didn't show up to camp in shape or what happened, but he looked slow. He didn't look explosive like years past. You know what I see him going? I see him getting a Gurley kind of deal and probably going to somewhere like Atlanta and then fizzling out in another year.
Well,
unfortunately.
he had career year for yards, touchdowns. everything this year. 955 yards and 10 touchdowns. This is a career year for him, which is insane because I didn't think he looked good either. I agree with you. I thought he had a terrible year, and then I'm looking up his numbers, and I'm like,
but
wow.
let's be perspective. He was on the Miami Dolphins, and that's when Adam Gase was there. So career year, 100%. But he didn't do what he should have done. This guy looked like a guy that was going to put up close to 1,700 all-purpose, 1,100 rushing, 5 to 6 in the air, and scored 12 to 15 touchdowns. Now, were his numbers respectable? 100%. He was a running back 2 in the sense of like fantasy football drafts, but when it comes down to it, it's like Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor was a disappointment when it come to fantasy football mindset. The guy ended fantastic, but didn't have the year that everybody expected him to. Same thing with Kenyon Drake, in my opinion.
Arizona, 1 year incentive kind of deal. They run it back with him. Even though I think Chase Edmonds is the better back, and he showed it last year to me, but that's just me. James White. I mean, this one's obvious to me. He's going to fucking Tampa Bay.
There's no market for him.
There's going to be a market for the second best pass catching back third best pass catching back in the NFL.
That's hilarious.
It's McCaffrey, Kamara, then him.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
Austin Eckler's better than that guy.
Yeah. That's hilarious. I mean, you tell a lot of jokes on this show, but this has got to be the funniest. Like, your damn New England bias is like insane, dude.
I watched this guy.
This guy isn't a top 30 running back in the NFL, and you're talking about he's the
pass catching. I didn't say running.
He's not a top 30 running back in the NFL. That means he's like 31, 32. There's 30 other running backs that are better than him.
Catching the ball. I said catching the ball.
Who cares about that's a small part of the
back. He's a running back. You have running backs that run the ball, then you have pass catching backs like him.
Tampa Bay's got Ronald Jones on contract, right?
Yeah.
They're most likely going to sign a sweetheart deal with God, I'm blanking. Fournette. What room do they have for James White? And how much are you going to pay this guy? You going to pay him $1 million? If he'll sign $1 million with some incentives, I'll sign him. But other than that,
he's the Tom Brady factor here.
Listen,
that's his boy.
I think Ronald Jones is better than James White.
I agree, but he could be your third down guy because Leonard Fournette's not your third down back.
I'd rather throw the ball to Fournette than James White.
Here's the reality. He's a Pats for life. That guy's not going. He turns 29. He turns 29 this year. So nobody's going to want to sign him for. He's not Tariq Cohen. You know what I mean? Like he's not Giovanni Bernard. He is a niche product for the Patriots, in my opinion. Is he good at his job? Yeah, 100%. But Bill's also really, really good at getting the best out of low talent players. And I view this guy as the guy that was very fortunate to start with New England, because if he went anywhere else, he probably would have been out of the league already. I think he's a niche product that Bill has fed him. The guy came into the league at 25 years old. He turns 29 this year.
He's cultivated that, that skill that he has, like Bill does with a lot of guys, and then they go to other places and they're just. I mean, Vanoy's probably another product of that, right? Like there's a reason. There's a reason why he got cut this year and the first year of a 5-year or 4-year deal, right? Like it is what it is. I mean, you can't get the same amount. Like I've told you in the past, what Bill is great at is getting the most out of the talent that he has. He may not have the most talented roster, but he gets every ounce of talent that he does have out of guys. That's what makes him a great coach. So. Oh man,
he is better than Bernard.
I'm David Jones. Listen, did you text David Jones and tell him, "Hey man, come to my defense on this. Can you help me out, please?"
No,
because
listen,
that's a terrible take.
James White, so disrespectful. You just have that Patriots hate.
Who? Why?
Hate on Cam.
We haven't been good enough to lose to you guys, so I don't have no hate against you guys.
Tell me a Patriot you don't have hate for.
I fucking love Tom Brady.
He's not a fucking Patriot no more.
Yeah, but he was for years.
Oh God, James White is the third best pass
Oh,
catching back in the league.
Teddy Bruschi, fucking loved him. Richard Seymour, loved him. Stop, dude. No, I'm not.
James White disrespect.
I mean, James White
should have got MVP of the Super Bowl, 13 receptions.
James White is the MVP of the YMCA, bro. That's what he is.
Through the Atlanta Falcons.
James White is the game-winning MVP of the YMCA. That's what he is.
He was the MVP of the Super Bowl
of the YMCA. YMCA.
So disrespectful.
So disrespectful. I can't believe James White is even on the names you listed earlier, and then you put James White on this list. That's a joke. Hilarious joke.
Yeah. How much you want to bet James White catches more passes than all these guys next year?
Oh my gosh.
I don't doubt that because he had 68 this past year.
Right. If he signs with New England, he will. But if he goes anywhere else, he is maybe
49. And he missed a lot of games this year because his parents were in that vehicle accident week 2, and he missed about 3 or 4 weeks. So
I remember that.
Aaron Jones, this is the prize. Who pays him?
The Jets or the Jaguars? The Jets or the Jaguars? Those are the only two landing spots.
Would just roll with Robinson, right? Robinson was a beast last year.
You just made an argument for them to sign fucking.
But I want him to be the backup. I'm not signing him to start. Mike Davis can just be your pass catching. You realize teams need a pass catching back. Hell, the Browns use 2. Granted, neither of them can catch as well as James White, but
stop.
You got 2 backs.
James White is in the stratosphere in any aspect of football as Chubb. Period. End of subject. That's a joke that you just told right there. James White couldn't hold Nick Chubb's jockstrap.
Here's the thing. I think we're dogging a guy he's good. I give James White I give him his credit. He's done well. It's not like he drops the ball. He's a good pass protector, which actually holds a lot of value. He could go to a place like the Bucs and protect Tom Brady. I agree with you there. But his landing spot, it's such an insignificancy in the sense of I don't put him in top 3 like yourself, unfortunately. I think that he would be a good player, but he wouldn't even be the number 2 catching back. Like I see him as more of like a niche coming in, being a third down back, but not having a big role, playing maybe 20 to 25% of snaps.
Talking about Aaron Jones?
No.
James White. I agree with you 100%.
I got to reach out to him and get him on this show to defend himself.
Oh, please let him come on. I'll tell him right to his face. Hey, bud,
this you realize James White had more catches in 2018 than Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt had. The Nick Chubb has in his career. And you're going to tell me that he's better than James White at catching the ball? Dude's got 370 yards, 370 catches, 3,000 yards, and 25 touchdowns, and 3 drops in 8 years. And you're telling me the dude, there's no place for him in the NFL. He's nothing. He's a product.
He's a product of New England.
He's going to be Danny Amendola somewhere. Danny Amendola with the Patriots, he killed it, and then left and was like, he's like a shitty Wes Welker. Yeah. Wes Welker did good with Denver, to be fair. Granted, they had Peyton. That's a whole nother story.
Wes Welker needed a quarterback. That was his problem.
Yeah, he was decent in Miami. That's how he ended up in New England. But
yeah.
Listen, to be fair, I don't think Leonard Fournette's coming back to Tampa, and I think James White comes in to take that spot. I think Leonard Fournette's going to get a nice offer. He's rejected to get
same running back. Why in the hell would I pay James White to be a turd? No.
You realize who the quarterback is, right?
Oh, I don't care. Listen, Tom Brady has Patriot love. That's fine, but he understands that James White is a product. He understands that James White is a product of New England. He's not bringing James White down to Tampa Bay.
What were they doing in Tampa at the end of the year?
I don't care.
New England's offense.
Let's get off this subject. We're talking about Aaron Jones right now. Who cares about James White and his $1 million deal that he signs with some cast-off team unless he stays in New England? Stop.
I'm going to be keeping track of James White this year.
Stop the madness, please.
He's going to do what Deion Lewis did. He'll be on a team. But
yeah, he will. Oh my God!
Anyway, go back. No, I want to see what. White is the hands and runs excellent routes. I hate the Patriots, but the film doesn't lie. He's a product of New England, much like
like I just said.
I'm going to go
Hold
back
on.
and redo my top 5 Patriots list and put him back on there.
Oh my Lord! Please do.
All right, let's
so
stick
I
to
mean,
the topic
every
at hand.
list you made is a joke. So I mean,
Aaron-
how do you make a Ravens list and not have Justin Tucker, the leading
Because tell
scorer?
me a relevant kick he's made.
Oh my God! Are you kidding me?
How many Super Bowls he won?
Are you kidding
game-winning
me?
Super Bowl kicks has he kicked?
He won one.
Yeah.
Did he kick like a game-winning field goal?
No, but that's like saying Joe Flacco won the game for him too. He was on the team. That's
How
I
many?
mean, Jeff
I
Flacco
bet
was
how
a
many?
quarterback
How
that
many?
did a lot more than kick. So like,
He,
you're
lead,
never going
he
to see a kick
leads
throw
the
my way.
NFL in all-time career percentage for field goal makes. He is the all-time leader in scoring for the Ravens. I think he's number 2 or number 3 in the league for scoring overall. The guy is absolutely like.
And
If
you want
you
me to
ask,
put him
if
over?
you ask the Ravens front office, they'll tell you he's a fucking top 5 Raven of all time. And
yeah,
then
that's
this
sure. Also
chucklehead,
say the same
this
thing about.
chucklehead with a New England Patriots fucking shirt on is telling me he's not.
I didn't have Vinatieri on my top 5 Patriots list either, and he made 3 game-winning.
That's a
kicks.
fucking another moronic thing. But let's besides the point.
No, I just
Aaron
put
Jones.
football players on my list, not people that kick the ball around and practice all day.
Anyways,
Anyway.
Aaron Jones. I think the market is Jaguars or the Jets, and that's it. Because he wants to get paid.
What about Denver?
No, they just
got a
signed
lot of
Melvin.
money.
Yeah,
They
but
got
they have
Melvin
Melvin
Gordon.
Ingram and
Melvin's
Melvin Gordon.
Melvin Gordon's got some guaranteed money on that contract too, I think. That's why Philip Lindsay's a free agent, right? Like everybody in the beginning of the year, oh, Philip Lindsay, they're splitting carries. I said, yeah, Melvin Gordon's getting used to the offense. Wait till you see the end of the year. Who was dominating the run game at the end of the year? Melvin Gordon.
Josh,
Miami?
that's the one I like. I think he actually goes to Miami. I think Gaskin proved himself to be a really good running
They
back.
got a lot of money.
They have a lot of money, and they're really good running backs on a rookie scale. So they have a lot of money to spend. I think it would be a good landing spot. They're going to ride with Tua at this point in time.
But you got Gaskin. What you bring? You bring Jones in, and you put Gaskin as you make Gaskin a third down back.
Yes, he is a third down back. He's like 5'8".
Gaskin's a little guy. He's an Austin Eckler. It's like, okay, Austin Eckler last year had a stupid year before he got hurt. Like, the guy was leading in every single facet when it comes to the running back. But he was the Alvin Kamara of the early on year, and then he got hurt. These little guys can't take a beating like that. Like, Kamara's different because he's a special guy and doesn't get hit hard. Gaskin is special, but he's going to get hit and he's going to get hurt because he's a smaller guy. I think that he lands in Miami.
It's rotation.
Yeah. It's the same thing, like you said, Alex.
Two running backs.
So they pay him. They pay him $12 to $14 million, which I think is the projected number for him.
Dude,
and then they're in their Ezekiel Elliott situation
I think that's
3 years from now.
I don't think anybody pays him that amount of money. I think he gets 10 max a year. I think that the running back situation, everyone's learning from Zeke. You're absolutely right, and I think the NFL is listening a little bit. They're not going to be paying these running backs like they were before. It's a dying breed of guys that they realize to sell.
I hope not. We saw Todd Gurley. We saw Ezekiel Elliott. Like, they're one knee injury away from being, rust buckets, man. No offense, 100%. Man. Listen, because I don't think Jones goes to Seattle because of the money situation. They need offensive line. If you bring a running back in and I'm Russell Wilson, I'm saying I'm sitting out this year. I'm going to do what, Watson is threatening. Trade me. Get me out of here. I don't want to be here.
Yeah, when these guys – so I'm actually reading the comments here on Facebook, and I totally understand where he's coming from. Like, the Jags conversation. Why? They have James Robinson. The Miami. Why? They have Myles Gaskin. It's not a matter of – you're very lucky to have these good of running backs on rookie scales. So you go out and you sign these big running backs, and you get that money that's not going to be there like what they were signing before. I think the Gurley contracts are dead. The Ezekiel contracts are dead. Aaron Jones ends up in Miami. He's going to get 10 max, maybe a 4-year deal, 40 mil top.
Yeah, I think Miami's the best fit. They have money. They just cleared out $7 more million with Van Noy. I think they attack him the first night of free. I think this is the first big signing they make. I think they realize they cut Jordan Howard after giving him a huge guarantee last year, midway through the season. They know they need a running back. They know they're not going to put Tua back there to throw up 50 times. They're going to run, play good defense, listen, rookie quarterback, second-year quarterback, still pretty much only played, half the year? And he missed a couple games, and they kept doing the whole switching thing at the end with Fitzpatrick. But Aaron Jones makes the most sense there. If he goes to the Dolphins, I expect it to be 2 years, very front-loaded, then maybe the last 2 years easy. If he goes to the Jets, they'll probably fucking break the bank because that's what the Jets do. They're
so stupid. I hate
Jets
that.
have to overpay. They're so bad.
They're so dumb.
They have to overpay.
Yeah.
They're going to have to overpay a guy like Aaron Jones. Like, why would he want to go there after being in Green Bay and winning when he could probably, honestly, if he tells the 49ers, hey, look, I'll take 10, would they not be like, okay, you know what I mean? So why would he go to the Jets unless they were like, here's 18? That's
Well, listen, I told you, I think he gets 12 to 14, and I think it's in Jacksonville or the Jets make the most sense because they are, listen, I'm hoping Saleh brings some calmness to the madness there, right? I hope listen, I don't want any NFL team to be a laughing stock unless it's the Steelers, the Ravens, and the Cincinnati Bengals. But other than that, no, I don't care about the Patriots.
Yes,
but
you do.
Other than that, I want every other team to be successful, right? Anybody in the AFC North, I want them to suck, make terrible decisions, and, give us as many opportunities to win a Super Bowl as possible, right? But besides that, I want teams to be good. And I'm tired of the Jets being a laughing stock, man. It's getting old watching the Giants be a laughing stock for the last couple of years. Like, it's not fun. I enjoy NFL as a whole, not just my team, right? Like, I like watching good football. The Jets are an embarrassment to the league, man. It's ugly. Adam Gase should have never had a job, and I'm sure he's going to get hired again somewhere as a coordinator, and it's horrendous. The guy Bill O'Brien, Adam Gase should be blackballed from the league. They're terrible for the league. It's horrendous.
That's fair. All right. We'll wrap it up there. I think we came to the agreement James White's the best running back available on the free agent market, so I'm okay with that. So while Alex recovers, check out all of our live shows.
Jesus Christ.
Be right back. Alex has to go Alex is going to go follow James White on Twitter.
War. Tell them that's what we ready for. War. Tell them that's what we ready for. War. Bringing that to competitors. Till we see the confetti fall, be ready for war. Tell them that's what we ready for. War. Tell them that's what we ready for. War. Bringing that to competitors. Till we see the confetti fall, be ready for war. Tell them I'm ready, any opponent. The crown heavy and every minute is chosen. A path only fit for kings, and you all know what this court means. What did you enlist for? If it isn't getting more rings, then you gon' have to switch your team. Trust me, it gets more mean. I'm a nightmare going up against your dreams. First step is explosive like a bomb hit. Bet if I let it fly, I cannot miss. And you ain't got a chance at the top 10 when you getting clamped all night by a locksmith. On the block throwing lobs for my top bigs. I'm a chef, no look, what's the top dish? Tie game, through the pressure as the clock ticks. Crossover, step back, hit a shot, swish.
All right. Ryan, I want to thank you again for joining. Alex, when James White messages you on Twitter, be very respectful. Pass catching running back in Super Bowl.
I'm going to ask him, new phone, who this? Like, straight up, like, look, bro, I don't even know who this guy is. I'm like, oh, you played in the NFL? Where do you play for? Who do you play for, man?
Yeah, he was played for Wisconsin, catching balls over your Buckeyes. But anyway.
Oh, yeah? They didn't beat us when he was there, so I'm fine with that.
You guys were paying, giving cars and tattoos to kids back then.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, thank you guys for joining us again. We will be back next week. I'll be back on the air in 15 minutes with That Arena Rock Show to talk top 5.
You didn't leave yourself much time, buddy.
Dude, I know. It's back to back every other Tuesday. But Alex, Ryan, thank you guys for joining again. Hopefully I'll see both of you guys next week. Alex, apologize to James White. And
yeah, I'll tell him. You ready? You suck, James White.
Oh, my God. It's so disrespectful. I'm gonna have to order a James White jersey before
Listen,
next
if he
week.
signs with the Browns, I'm fucking done, dude. I'm absolutely done. If we bring him in as a third option or whatever, like,
Oh,
for
I
like
hope
$1
that
million,
happens so
I
bad.
fucking quit.
Oh my
I quit
god.
watching NFL. I'm
Your
done. dude.
GM will be like, yeah, we need an actual pass catching
Oh
back.
man, I fucking quit, dude. I'll be done. I'll quit watching football. It's fucking terrible.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next week.